Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am Money Mike, and today, today is the day that we have been waiting for since the Super Bowl. The football season is back. Now, yes, it's funny. I'm sitting here. See, look, my Ravens don't play till Sunday, but I'm excited. Because, yeah, it's the Texans and Chiefs tonight. But I'm excited, so I'm wearing my Ravens shirt. But today on the Front 7 podcast is my predictions video for the year. I will go over my season predictions. I want to do a big video, 55 predictions in honor of Super Bowl 55, but I had a hard time coming up with 55 different predictions. So I'm going to sprinkle in some bold predictions throughout the course of this video. Now, hopefully this video won't be too long, as I am now doing more videos to the channel and uploading more to the channel. I am working on finding the right balance in the length of each video, and how much do I want to record and things like that. So just stay with me here. Not all the videos are going to be an hour long. This one definitely won't. So let's go ahead and go over predictions here. So we have something new this year, which, and I have my prediction. I had to get my predictions up here on the screen. So we have something new. The NFL implemented a 7th seed. So only the number 1 seed gets the first round bye. So that makes things more interesting, because now the 2 seed, who normally has a bye week, is going to have to play the new 7th seed, whoever that might be. So if you go back to last year's standings, if there was a 7th seed, the Rams and the Steelers would have made it in last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. Obviously the NFL wants more revenue during the playoffs, and obviously now with everything going on, clearly, they definitely want to have more revenue this year. So let's go ahead and start with the AFC East. So the AFC East this year, there is no Tom Brady. Tom Brady left New England. He left the New England cold for the warmth, for that warm summer days of Florida. He is now in Tampa Bay. And now the AFC East is wide open. Well, at least maybe. If this was a couple years ago, perhaps. But clearly the Buffalo Bills are the favorites to win this division, and rightfully so. If you saw my video last week, go ahead, go back and watch it. I talked about the 10 stories, in my opinion, that were crucial, that are going to be crucial to watch this season. And one of my topics was that it was do or die for Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have already taken their teams to the playoffs. They've already shown that they're franchise quarterbacks. And Josh Allen for the Bills has proved that. And I think now you have the acquisition of Stephon Diggs in the offseason, and I think that's going to do wonders for Josh Allen. I think we're going to see a big major improvement now that he has a legitimate number 1 receiver to throw to. And I think the Buffalo Bills will take the AFC East division now. And moving along here to the AFC North. Now, obviously, I'm picking my Ravens to win the AFC North. I think they'll be the 2 seed. I think they will be facing this new 7th seed of the New England Patriots, or perhaps a rematch against the Titans. I don't know. But as of my predictions, the Patriots will be the 7th seed. So I have the Ravens and the Patriots facing off in the wild card round. They do face off in the regular season, so it would be a rematch. But as far as the rest of the AFC North, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers returning to the playoffs. Last year, I do believe if Big Ben had stayed healthy, had not gotten injured, I do believe the Steelers would have gotten in over the Tennessee Titans. I like their defense. They got a blossoming young pass rusher in T.J. Watt. Another in the line, the family lineage of the Watt family. T.J. Watt is an incredible player to watch. I mean, obviously he's a Steeler, but man, you cannot doubt him. You cannot doubt him at all. He is a talented player. He is going to be a force there to opposing quarterbacks this season. And I think Pittsburgh will get back to the playoffs. I have them as the 5th seed. Now, as far as the Ohio teams, I said this last week. I said, not just Sam Darnold, but Baker Mayfield has to step up. The Browns went out. They got some offensive line protection. They have Odell Beckham. They have Jarvis Landry. They brought in Austin Hooper. There is no excuse for Baker Mayfield this year. They brought in a new head coach, Kevin Stefanski from Minnesota. I fully expect them to do what Minnesota did last year. I do think that is where the Browns will have success. Is when you look at Minnesota with the run game with Dalvin Cook. I think if they try to replicate that with Nick Chubb, and they just paid Kareem Hunt, so I think they do a 2-back system there to kind of relieve the pressure from Baker. I think the Browns can be a competitive team this year. I just don't have them making the playoffs because I think even with the 7th seed, I think the Patriots are going to be too much. Steelers are going to bounce back. Tennessee is going to be there, obviously. And you have the Colts. I just think it's too competitive in the AFC for the Browns to make the playoffs. As for the Bengals, man, dude, I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a rookie quarterback that's been set up as much as Joe Burrow here. A.J. Green is returning. I mean, obviously, we don't know for how long, if he's going to be in Cincinnati beyond the season, but he is on that franchise tag, and obviously the Bengals would like to lock him up for the rest of his career. They brought in T. Higgins in the draft. They have Joe Mixon. I think, to me, the Bengals, the Bengals, they have something there in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is going to show a lot of potential. I'll get into my week 1 picks later at the end of the episode, but I think this Sunday when the Chargers go to play the Bengals, we're going to see that potential show up, and Joe Burrow is going to lead the Bengals to a victory over the Chargers. But I do think we're going to see a lot of potential with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I do believe Joe Burrow is going to show that the AFC North is going to become one of the most competitive divisions in this new decade of NFL football. Moving to the AFC South, where I have 2 teams making into the playoffs. We'll have 1 team out, that made it last year, and that is going to be the team that faces the Chiefs tonight, the Houston Texans. I have them out of the playoffs. I believe that offense is going to take a step back without DeAndre Hopkins, because Deshaun Watson now has to rely on Brandon Cooks, who was limited in practice. He's had concussion issues, health issues, staying healthy. We know Will Fuller, he's had injury issues. You know, I believe that the Houston offense is going to hold them back this year. Deshaun, yes, he got that bright new shiny contract, but Bill O'Brien just said, hey, DeAndre, go to Arizona. Arizona will pay you the money that we're not going to pay you. But to me, I just feel it's just a combustible element there where it's like, is Bill O'Brien going to eventually be let go? Is ownership in Houston, if they fail to make the playoffs after trading DeAndre Hopkins for basically nothing, is this going to come to a head? Is Bill O'Brien going to be on the hot seat? Is Bill O'Brien, the general manager, going to be on the hot seat? So, to me, I think without Hopkins there, I think the receiving core is going to be lacking. I think Houston is going to miss the playoffs. But as far as who wins the division, I have the Colts with Phillip Rivers. Now, a lot of people will say, look what the Colts did last year. Well, let's look back at last year. The Indianapolis Colts with Jacoby Brissett started out the year 5-2. They were well on their way to winning the AFC South last year, before the kicking issues with Adam Vinatieri, and everything just kind of fell apart. So even though Andrew Luck had retired, and the Colts still were sitting at 5-2 through 8 weeks, and in play to win their division. And I believe with Phillip, and you upgrade to Phillip Rivers, I think the Colts can win this division. You go out and you add, I think it was DeForest Buckner, right? I can't, yes, DeForest Buckner, that's who it was. The Colts go out, they add DeForest Buckner there to their defensive line. They traded away their first-round pick in this year's draft for his services to the 49ers. The 49ers obviously went out and they drafted Javon Kinlaw as his replacement. But the Colts went out and they not only did they trade for him, but they paid him big bucks as well. And I believe the Colts are going to win the AFC South. Now, as far as the second team in the AFC South that I mentioned, I have the Tennessee Titans returning back to the playoffs. I believe the Titans are going to end up being the 6th seed. Now, again, it could go either way. Patriots could be the 6th seed, Titans 7th seed. I mean, just depending on how it all shakes out. But as of now, I think the Titans are going to get in as a 6th seed once again this year. But obviously, there's a 7th seed this year. But I think the Tennessee Titans are going to go back to... I think the Titans are still going to be where they were. I think we finally figured out this formula with like these former Patriots coaches and players, is that Mike Vrabel has done a great job in Tennessee. Tennessee has got to get over that 9-7 hump, because they've finished 9-7 like the past 3 years. So Mike Vrabel has to get them into that double-digit win column. But the thing here is we see so many people, so many teams around the league say, Well, we clearly need a Patriots coach to come in and replicate what they do. But it never works, and we'll get into that a little bit more later on when I get to the NFC. But I think that's for the AFC South. The Titans are going to be the wild card, one of the wild card teams, and the Colts are going to win the division, is my prediction. Moving along to the AFC West, the Chiefs are the only team I have making the playoffs. They're the 1 seed. My AFC title game is the Chiefs and the Ravens. In the AFC title game, Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. The AFC title game that we'll probably get as much as Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes is going to replace Brady versus Manning. The Chiefs are going to win the West, so they're the 1 seed. The Chargers, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They're starting Tyrod Taylor, just, obviously with everything that's going on, that has happened this year with the pandemic. It's been harder for rookies to kind of learn the playbook and everything, so they're going with the veteran to start the year. So it does make you wonder, if things don't go as well, will we see Justin Herbert? At what point will we see Justin Herbert? As for the Raiders, to me, I think this is make or break for Derek Carr. I think he has to show that he can be the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. I think to me, it's either... I think this is it. I think there's been so many questions of whether or not, does Gruden like him? Does he work? Will he work with Gruden? Things like that. I think just everything has to come together for Carr. Otherwise, I think the Vegas Raiders could be looking at a new quarterback next year. As for the Denver Broncos, they just got hit with the worst news possible. They were getting back Bradley Chubb from injury last year. Now they just lost they just lost Von Miller for the year due to an ankle injury, which is one of the worst ways you can lose a player for the year. The last practice, the final play of practice was when Von Miller got hurt. Such a terrible loss. Miller is a free agent after this year. So obviously with him getting hurt, that's going to put a damper on him potentially getting a big contract next year, and perhaps that will make it easier for the Broncos to retain him on a cheap 1-year deal for him to bounce back and show that he's over the injury. But Drew Lock right now, it's a Drew Lock show in Denver. Joe Flacco didn't work out for the Broncos. I hate that for Joe. I really wanted to see Flacco do well in Denver last year, but it just didn't really work out. But you know what, Joe? You'll always be a Raven at heart, man. You'll always be a Raven at heart. Drew Lock now is taking over, and if the general manager of the Broncos was anyone not named John Elway, anyone not a Hall of Fame quarterback that guided your team to 2 Super Bowls in the 90s, they would have been fired. John Elway has to hope that Drew Lock is it. He has whiffed on basically every quarterback since Peyton Manning. And I think right now, I think the Broncos organization has to kind of go, you know what, if Drew Lock does not make it, obviously, the Broncos go out and they draft Jerry Jeudy, give him a new toy to play with. Last year they drafted Noah Fant. So they're obviously trying to create something there on something special there on offense. But you get Bradley Chubb back, then you lose Von Miller. I mean, I don't know. I think the AFC is going to be too competitive for Denver. It's going to be interesting to see if Drew Lock does take that next step as as basically Elway is on his last leg in terms of being a general manager. In my opinion, I think just because of who he is, he'll pretty much get a pass, and like if Drew Lock didn't work out, he'll be able to select another quarterback. But I think to me, when you look at the AFC West, I think this is the Chiefs who will run away with it. They'll be the number 1 seed when it's all said and done. I am going to sprinkle in this bold prediction, alright? Bold prediction right here, right now. As of tonight, as of today, September 10th, as of today, the Jacksonville Jaguars will not get the first overall pick in next year's draft. Nope. Everybody says that they will. I'm saying my bold prediction is that they are not the team who gets the number 1 overall pick. I believe that the team who gets the number 1 overall pick will come from the NFC. And the NFC will get Trevor Lawrence. Look, I don't know. The AFC has Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. The NFC needs some young quarterbacks that can match up with the AFC quarterbacks right now. So I think an NFC team is going to get the number 1 pick next year, and the NFC is going to start getting some young, talented quarterbacks to match the AFC. That is my prediction. The Jaguars will not get the first overall pick. In fact, I believe Minshew is going to surprise a lot of people. Chiefs are the number 1 seed. My Ravens are sitting at the 2 seed. The Bills will get the 3 seed. The Colts will win the AFC South and get that 4th seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers will get the the Steelers are in as the 5th seed. So that is my mistake. My mistake there. I was not looking at my picks right. But the Steelers are the 5th seed. Titans are the 6th seed. Patriots 7th seed. That is the AFC. My prediction is the Ravens going to Arrowhead Stadium for the AFC title game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's move to the NFC now. The NFC. Let's start with the NFC East. And, I'm going to go Dallas. I think Dallas here, I think, Brady and Mike McCarthy, I loved what they did. Dak Prescott last year had like almost 5,000 passing yards. And they go out in the draft and they go and get C.D. Lamb after they just paid Amari Cooper $100 million. I think to me I think we'll see the same for the Dallas offense. I think that will be the same. Again, I said this last week, is, again, I don't think it's not about this season as much as it is about next season and beyond. Because, again, as I said last week in my video about my top 10 stories of the year, the success of the Cowboys depends on whether or not the Cowboys get a deal done with Dak Prescott. Because who is their plan B? If Prescott walks, or are they going to tag him again? Are we going to see a Le'Veon Bell situation where if he gets tagged again, is he going to threaten to sit out? There's so much that is going to have to be solved that even though that is going to be like this big cloud hanging over the head of the Dallas Cowboys, I still think they're going to go out there and win the division. Look, the Eagles, to me, Carson Wentz cannot stay healthy. Um, they've been waiting for him to return to his 2017 almost MVP form, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Then you look at the schedule for the Eagles, and you look at what has happened this offseason, where they've lost 2 linemen for the year, and you got Chase Young, who is going to be Chase Young. You got Ryan Kerrigan. You got these guys. You got these in pass rush, and they play the AFC North. You got T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Matt Judon. The Eagles right now are going to be facing a lot of good pass rushers, and I just don't think the Eagles have it in them. Now let me make sure that I'm not messing this up again like I did before. Okay, yeah, so the Eagles are not in my playoffs. The Eagles aren't in. That's I don't know. I think there might be a chance we might see Jalen Hurts before we see Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa in 2020. That's all I'm saying. As far as the Giants and Washington, and basically, again, I think the Giants, it's all going to depend on Daniel Jones' growth. The Giants are the latest team to go out there and be like, okay, let's grab a Patriots coach. Let's try to see if we can replicate that success. And again, unless you get Bill Belichick, you're not going to replicate the Patriots' success. All right? As far as the Washington team, that I guess we'll know their new team name by next year. The Washington football team, as it stands, again, they also have to rely on the growth with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback for them. But I do want to say, do want to congratulate Alex Smith for making his return. Just go ahead and give him the Comeback Player of the Year award right now. He does have to take a snap. Just let him go out there and take a knee on the final kneel down in week 17. And that would be enough to give him the award. I hope maybe, with Dwayne Haskins entrenched as the starter in Washington, that perhaps we might be able to see the Alex Smith comeback story play out next year, where Alex Smith is a starting quarterback in the NFL again. Because, again, he was playing very well. Alex Smith had the Washington, the then Redskins. This is going to take some time to get used to. The Washington football team, he had them leading the NFC East before the injury occurred, and that, of course, prompted Washington to go out and draft Dwayne Haskins the next year in the draft after it. But they gotta hope that he develops well over there. And hey, you know what? I'm interested in seeing how that defensive line comes together in Washington. I'm very interested in seeing, especially with Chase Young. They could replicate what the 49ers are doing easily with that defensive line over there. Moving to the NFC North, I do have the Green Bay Packers as the only team in the playoffs for the NFC North. I know the Vikings drafted, Justin Jefferson, and they have Adam Thielen, they have Kyle Rudolph. But again, they had to purge the roster to, because of salary cap and getting rid of some guys. And I just don't see the Vikings doing as well. They'll be there, but they'll just barely miss the playoffs. So, Saints fans, if my predictions come true, you won't have to worry about the Vikings in the playoffs this year, alright? As for the Lions and the Bears, the Lions obviously, again, look, I don't know how many times I can say this, but unless you're hiring Bill Belichick, you're not going to replicate the success of the Patriots. Matt Patricia is on a make it or break it year where Patricia has to make the playoffs or he's fired. That's General Manager Bob Quinn. They've already been told, make the playoffs or you're gone. So, Matthew Stafford, if he comes back healthy, is that going to help them get to that 7th seed? Can the Lions be competitive enough? They traded away Darius Slay. They replaced him with Jeff Okuda in the draft. Do they have what it takes there in Detroit to get to the 7th seed or the 6th seed? Because I don't think they're going to catch Green Bay. And I have Green Bay making it to the NFC Championship game again. Look, here's the thing. I think the media has overblown this whole entire Rodgers Jordan Love thing. I think we're going to see this is going to end up being nothing. I think Rodgers is going to go out there, have a great year, potentially be MVP, or he'll be in the MVP race, potentially be the MVP. He's gonna have to face some stiff competition, but right now, I have the Packers as my 1 seed. I think they're going to go and make it to the NFC title game. And I think the Packers are I think Rodgers is going to shut up a lot of the critics. Let's put it to you like that. The media thinks that there's some big controversy. You know what? Nope. Rodgers puts that to bed. Packers win the NFC North. As for the Bears, they're still going to be wishing Ryan Pace would have took Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes, who just won a Super Bowl. So, yeah. The Bears. Like I said, an NFC team is going to have that number 1 pick. And it could be the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky is the starter because obviously Ryan Pace is hey, I'm going to go down with this ship. I am going to stick to my gut, and I'm not going to admit that I was wrong about this deal. Even though I traded for Nick Foles and could have got Cam Newton for cheaper, or Jameis Winston for cheaper. But, hey, perhaps Bears fans, you might have a new general manager, a new head coach that won't pass over a franchise-changing quarterback, let alone 2 of them. Now, moving to the NFC South. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here is my pick to win the NFC South. The Saints are in as the 6th seed. That's my NFC Championship game. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, NFC Championship game. I mean, just go back in time. Go back in time to like 10 years ago, like 2010, and go and tell your past self that Tom Brady is going to be playing for an NFC team one day in 2020, let alone in 2020. and your past self will not believe it. Like this, you got Gronk, who's come out of retirement to play with Brady. I mean, look, I think the Bucks, Mike Evans is there, Chris Godwin, Tom Brady has the weapons he did not have in New England. Cam Newton this year he's going to see that. Yes, he has Julian Edelman, but outside of that, he doesn't have much. And that hurt Tom Brady last year. That hurt the Patriots offense. And I think now with Brady in Tampa Bay, we're going to see that Tom Brady still has a lot in the tank for, maybe not just this year, but maybe for years beyond. I don't know. But I think if you took Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronkowski, O.J. Howard in your fantasy drafts, you probably will have a good year. But the Bucks and the Saints are the only two teams I have in the NFC South making the playoffs. As for the NFC West, I am so thankful that my Ravens actually played the NFC West last year, because I would hate to play them this year. I believe this is going to be the most competitive division in the entire NFL. I believe they get 3 teams into the playoffs in 2020. The 49ers are going to win the division. The Seahawks will get in as a wild card team, and joining the field as the 7th seed in the NFC, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I mentioned this before. I said that not just tonight, but this season, we'll see the Texans' offense take a step back because of DeAndre Hopkins not being there. I think what we will see is the Cardinals' offense going to the next level. Kyler Murray going to the next level. I think we're going to, and you add in Isaiah Simmons, who was our first-round draft pick. I think you add in, I've liked what the Cardinals have done. I think Arizona is going to have enough to get in and be that very first NFC 7th seed to make the playoffs as the 7th seed. As for the Rams, they just have not been the same since they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots. We saw this with Atlanta. Atlanta lost the Super Bowl, and they just went down this road, and they're still trying to recover from that. And now the Rams are doing the same thing. Now, even though they just went out and paid Jalen Ramsey a bunch of money and just reset the whole entire corner market, giving him $21 million a year, I believe it was, giving him that, and resetting the entire market. So now, basically, what we're going to get is, I think we're going to see a roster purge. The Rams, I don't know whether they're going to get any cap space, because they just paid Ramsey, and then they were before this deal, which lowered the cap for Ramsey this year, was they were $400,000 over the cap, and they had to get under that by Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So, to me, I just see this in a similar fashion where, like, Jacksonville was offloading a lot of bad contracts. There's a team that's just not going to go nowhere anytime soon. I think something happened where they just lost their mojo after they lost to the Patriots. I think unless they can get it together again, I think they'll be all right, but not this season though. I think Arizona made the leap over them. I think Arizona's a better team, and which is why I have 3 teams in the NFC West making the playoffs. but not the Rams. Um, so with that being said, my predictions for the Super Bowl. So my AFC Championship game was the Ravens and the Chiefs. My NFC Championship game was the Bucks and the Packers. My Super Bowl is Ravens, Packers, with the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. Now look, here's the thing. It's easy for you to see, okay, I'm a Ravens fan. It's easy to make that pick. But, there's a pattern. There's been a pattern here. And I want you guys to see this here, this picture that was tweeted out, where it says the MVP, the last 3 MVPs went on to win the Super Bowl the following year. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson is going to add his name to that list. I believe the Ravens beat the Packers in the Super Bowl. At Super Bowl 55 in Tampa. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my predictions up here on my official predictions for the season up here on the board. On the screen here, you will see it. So just to recap here real quick. The AFC will be run by the Chiefs, probably for this whole entire decade. The Ravens will be the 2 seed. Again, the Ravens and Chiefs will probably be meeting in the AFC title game like every year. This is a whole decade. The Buffalo Bills might be able to squeak in there once in a while with Josh Allen. If he progresses well. The Colts as my 4th seed. The Steelers, again, I do have concern about Ben's shoulder, but I do have them into the playoffs as the 5th seed. The Tennessee Titans are back in as the 6th seed. And never count them out. Bill Belichick, the Patriots, the 7th seed. My NFC is Packers, Bucks, 49ers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Saints, and Arizona Cardinals. So those are my season predictions. So let's go ahead and end the video on my week 1 predictions, alright? As we close out this video. And I will see you all next week for a recap of week 1 and a preview of week number 2. So, obviously, tonight, Kansas City Chiefs over the Houston Texans. I have the Seahawks going on the road, coming to the East Coast to take down the Atlanta Falcons. Buffalo's going to beat the Jets. Detroit over Chicago. Green Bay over Minnesota. Cam Newton and the Patriots over Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins. And in a close one, I'm going to go with the Eagles over Washington. I wanted to pick Washington, but I got to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Eagles. I'm taking the Raiders to beat the Panthers. The Colts to beat the Jaguars, who will not get the first overall pick. Just remember that. Ravens over the Browns. Joe Burrow gets his first NFL win in his first start. Bengals beat the Chargers. Buccaneers over the Saints. My upset of the week. Arizona Cardinals go on the road to San Francisco and they upset the 49ers. They will upset the defending NFC champions as Arizona begins their playoff push that I mentioned. They will be the 7th seed. Cowboys over the Rams. Steelers over the Giants. And the Tennessee Titans over the Denver Broncos, who just lost Von Miller for the season. So those are my week 1 picks. You will see that there on the screen. So, let me know in the comments below, what are your predictions for the year? Are you excited that the NFL season is beginning tonight? Chiefs, Texans, playoff rematch. Again, I'm in my Ravens gear, but you know what? They don't play till Sunday, but I'm just excited for football. I'm excited, the fact that we do have football. So much talk whether we may or may not have it. So I'm glad that we do. I'm glad that we'll have something that is some kind of normal this year. So I'm excited. 2020 NFL football season is here. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe for more of the Front 7 podcast throughout the NFL season, and I will be back next week as I will just recap week 1 and look ahead to week 2 and talk about the biggest news stories of week number 1. I've been your host, Money Mike, and football is back.